One minute, Lily Hawthorne was serving drinks at a royal ball. The next, a noble woman slapped her in front of hundreds of guests and accused her of seducing her husband. The worst part wasn't the accusation. It wasn't the slap. It wasn't even watching hundreds of people believe she was a liar. The worst part was seeing the man who caused it all standing silently beside his wife while her future was being destroyed. Because in that moment, Lily realized something terrifying. Nobody was coming to defend her. The slap echoed across the royal ballroom. Music stopped. Conversations died instantly. Dozens of nobles turned toward the sound. Lily Hawthorne staggered backward, one trembling hand pressed against her burning cheek. For several seconds she couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't understand what had just happened. Lady Victoria Fairfax stood before her, shaking with rage. "You shameless little snake!" Gasps spread through the crowd. Lily's eyes widened. "My lady, I don't understand." "Don't?" Victoria pointed at her with a trembling finger. "Do not stand there and pretend innocence." Only moments earlier, Lily had been delivering correspondence between guests attending the kingdom's winter charity gala. It was the most prestigious event of the season. Nobles from every corner of the kingdom attended. Powerful families gathered beneath crystal chandeliers, while musicians played and reporters searched for stories. Now, every eye in the ballroom rested on her. Lord Nathaniel Fairfax stepped forward. The moment Lily saw his face, her stomach dropped. He wasn't going to tell the truth. He wasn't going to admit what happened inside the archives. He was going to save himself. Victoria suddenly threw a bundle of papers at Lily's feet. The pages scattered across the polished marble floor. Curious nobles rushed forward immediately. One picked up a letter, then another. Whispers erupted. Lily looked down and felt her blood turn cold. Love letters, dozens of them, everyone supposedly written by her, everyone addressed to Nathaniel Fairfax, everyone fake. "I've never seen those before," Lily whispered. Nobody listened. Victoria laughed bitterly. "Still lying?" Tears glistened in her eyes. "Do you have any idea how humiliating this is?" Lily's pulse hammered inside her chest. "My lady, please, I swear to you, enough." Victoria pointed directly at her. "You have spent months pursuing my husband." "No." "You sent him letters." "No." "You tried to seduce him." "No." But the crowd had already decided. Victoria Fairfax was a respected noblewoman. Lily Hawthorne was a maid. In royal society, truth often carried less weight than status. Several reporters appeared near the edge of the ballroom. Notebooks opened. Pens moved. Lily felt sick. Once the newspapers got involved, her life was over. Nathaniel finally spoke. His voice sounded calm, controlled, perfectly rehearsed. "I tried to handle this privately." Lily stared at him. "You liar!" A murmur spread through the crowd. Nathaniel lowered his eyes dramatically. "As you can see, she's emotional." The memory rushed back instantly. Less than 10 minutes ago, a senior steward had sent Lily to deliver charity records to the palace archives. She entered expecting to leave moments later. Instead, she found Nathaniel waiting. The moment the door closed behind her, she knew something was wrong. Nathaniel had pursued her for months, compliments she never wanted, gifts she never accepted, invitations she always refused. Tonight, he became bolder. He stepped closer, promised comfort, promised security, promised a better life if she agreed to become his mistress. Lily refused, again. Then he grabbed her wrist. She tried pulling away. His grip tightened. Fear shot through her chest. "Let me go." Nathaniel smiled. "Nobody has to know. Let me go." His hand moved toward her face. Panic exploded inside her. Lily shoved him hard. Nathaniel stumbled backward. and at that exact moment the archives door opened. Victoria entered. For one brief second, everyone froze. Lily thought the truth would be obvious. Instead, Nathaniel immediately stepped away from her. Victoria. His voice sounded exhausted, almost relieved. "Thank God you're here." Lily stared at him in disbelief. Before she could explain, Nathaniel produced the letters. Prepared, waiting, planned. The realization made her feel physically ill. This wasn't an accident, it was a trap. Back in the ballroom, a palace steward stepped forward. "Miss Hawthorne, until this matter is investigated, you are relieved of your duties." The words hit harder than the slap. Her younger brother depended on her wages. She paid for his schooling, their rent, their food, everything. One noble woman laughed quietly. Imagine thinking a nobleman would choose a maid. Another shook her head. Girls like her always overreach. Lily wanted to scream. Instead, she stood frozen while her entire life collapsed around her. Then, the ballroom doors opened. Silence followed instantly. Even the reporters stopped writing. Every head turned toward the entrance. A tall figure entered dressed entirely in black. Duke Alexander Ashford, the most powerful nobleman in the kingdom, the most feared, the most distant. The crowd parted automatically as he walked. His grey eyes swept across the ballroom. The stopped music, the gathered crowd, the scattered letters, the terrified maid standing alone at the centre of it all. He stopped. "What's happening?" Nobody answered immediately. Finally, Victoria stepped forward. "An unfortunate scandal, Your Grace." His gaze shifted toward her. "And?" Victoria straightened. "This maid has been pursuing my husband." Alexander looked toward Nathaniel. Several long seconds passed. Something uncomfortable settled over the room. The Duke wasn't reacting. He was studying, observing, judging. Then he asked quietly, "Do you have proof?" Victoria pointed toward the letters. Alexander picked one up, read it. Then another, then another. Silence stretched. Finally, he looked towards Lily. "What is your name?" "Lily Hawthorne." "Did you write these?" "No." The answer came instantly. Without hesitation, Alexander studied her face. 1 second. 2. 3. Then he looked toward Nathaniel. Nathaniel swallowed. The movement was small, almost invisible, but Alexander noticed. For the first time that evening, someone seemed uncertain about the story being told. Hope flickered inside Lily's chest. Small, dangerous, fragile. A reporter laughed softly. "Regardless of the details, Your Grace, her reputation is finished." The words landed like a knife, because everyone knew they were true. Even if she proved her innocence, the gossip would remain. Alexander remained silent. Then he looked directly at Lily. Something shifted in his eyes. A decision. The kind that changes lives. The ballroom held its breath. Then Duke Alexander Ashford spoke the words that stunned the kingdom. "Would you do me the honour of becoming my wife?" The room exploded. Reporters shouted. Nobles gasped. Victoria looked ready to faint. Nathaniel turned pale. Lily simply stared, certain she had heard him wrong. But Alexander never looked away, waiting, calm, terrifyingly serious. Moments later, he quietly said, "Miss Hawthorne, walk with me." For reasons she couldn't explain, Lily obeyed. Minutes later, they stood alone inside a private drawing room overlooking the palace gardens. The noise of the ballroom disappeared behind closed doors. Silence settled between them. Finally, Lily found her voice. "Why?" Alexander stared through the window toward the dark gardens. "Because your reputation is ruined." The answer hurt. "So this is pity?" "No." His voice remained calm. "This is practicality." "I don't understand." Alexander stepped closer, close enough that nobody outside the room could hear. "I need a wife." The words were almost a whisper. Lily stared at him. "What?" His gaze never left hers. "And you need a reputation." Her chest tightened. "So that's all this is?" "Yes." The answer came too quickly, too coldly. Alexander's voice lowered further. "You will have my name." A pause. "You will have my protection." Another pause, then the warning, "But don't expect affection." Lily felt her heart sink. Alexander looked away towards the dark gardens. "Do not mistake this for romance, Miss Hawthorne." His expression hardened once more. "I am offering you protection, nothing more." Just an hour ago, she thought her life was over. Now one of the most powerful men in the kingdom was offering her marriage. Yet somehow she couldn't decide which future frightened her more. Lily barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the ballroom, the slap, the accusations, the reporters scribbling her name into their notebooks, then Alexander's voice, calm, cold, unshakable. "I need a wife, and you need a reputation." By dawn she had reached a decision, not because she wanted to marry him, because she had no choice. Kingdom had already decided who she was. Without Alexander's protection, she would lose everything. The following morning, 3 newspapers arrived at her small townhouse. Her younger brother Thomas placed them on the kitchen table without saying a word. Lily didn't need to read the headlines. The expressions on his face told her enough. "It's bad, isn't it?" Thomas nodded. "Worse than bad." Lily picked up the first paper. Maid accused of pursuing married noblemen. The second was even worse. Ballroom scandal shocks winter. Charity gala. The third carried a sketch of her face beside an even larger headline. Duke Ashford proposes to disgraced servant. Lily lowered the paper slowly. Her stomach twisted. Thomas sat opposite her. "Tell me what really happened." So she did. She told him about Nathaniel, about the archives, about the letters, about the slap, about the proposal. By the time she finished, Thomas looked furious. "He should be in prison." Lily almost smiled. "Which one?" "Both of them." His jaw tightened. Nathaniel for what he did, and the Duke for turning marriage into a business contract. Lily stared down at the newspaper. Maybe. But even as she said it, she wasn't sure she believed it. Several hours later, a black carriage bearing the Ashford crest arrived outside their home. A footman stepped down and delivered a simple message. The Duke requested her presence at Ashford Estate. The journey lasted nearly 3 hours. The city slowly disappeared behind them. Stone streets became country roads became rolling fields covered in winter frost. Eventually, Ashford Estate appeared beyond a line of ancient oak trees. Lily's breath caught instantly. The mansion sat atop a hill overlooking a frozen lake. Massive stone walls stretched toward the winter sky. It was beautiful, elegant, intimidating. Less like a home and more like a fortress built to keep the world away. Alexander greeted her personally inside the entrance hall. "Thank you for coming." Lily glanced around. Everything felt strangely quiet. Servants moved efficiently through the hallways. Footmen stood at attention. Yet something about the estate felt empty, as though laughter had once lived there but hadn't visited in years. Alexander studied her. "You've made your decision?" "Direct as always." Lily folded her hands together. "You already know my answer." Something flickered briefly across his face. Relief, perhaps, gone too quickly to identify. "Then we should discuss the arrangement." Arrangement. Not marriage, not future. Arrangement. The word settled heavily between them. Alexander led her into a private study. Books lined the walls from floor to ceiling. A fire crackled quietly in the corner. "The wedding will take place in 3 days." Lily blinked. 3 days? The longer we wait, the more speculation grows. Practical, efficient, cold. Alexander moved behind his desk. "You will have complete freedom within the estate. You will be treated with respect. Nobody here will question your position. Lily hesitated. And you? His gaze lifted. What about me? How will you treat me? Silence. Then finally he answered. Fairly. Fairly, not kindly, not warmly, fairly. Somehow that answer told her everything. A knock interrupted them. An elderly woman entered carrying tea, silver hair, gentle eyes. The moment she looked at Lily, her expression softened. This must be Miss Hawthorne. Alexander nodded. Mrs. Whitmore manages the household. The older woman smiled warmly. It's lovely to meet you. For the first time since arriving, Lily felt herself relax. Mrs. Whitmore poured tea before quietly leaving the room. Once she was gone, Lily noticed something sitting on a nearby shelf, a framed photograph. A young woman with dark hair and bright eyes. She looked strikingly familiar. Who is she? The room changed instantly. Alexander's posture stiffened. His gaze shifted toward the photograph. Several seconds passed before he answered. My sister. Lily immediately remembered his words from the ballroom. I've seen what public scandals do to innocent women before. Her heart sank. What happened to her? Alexander's expression became unreadable, colder, somehow, more distant. That discussion is over. Lily lowered her eyes. Another locked door. Another question she wasn't allowed to ask.
Imagine losing everything in a single night. Your job, your reputation, and the future you worked so hard to build. Lily thought her life was over when the entire ballroom turned against her. But sometimes, the person who saves you isn't the one you expect. Do you think Alexander proposed because he felt sorry for her? Or was there something deeper from the very beginning? Let me know in the comments. And if you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next royal romance.
The rest of the afternoon passed quietly. Servants showed her different parts of the estate, the library, the gardens, the formal dining rooms. Everything was beautiful. Yet the entire mansion carried an undercurrent of sadness she couldn't explain. By evening, she found herself standing beside a tall window, overlooking the frozen lake. Footsteps approached behind her. Alexander. Neither spoke immediately. You dislike this arrangement, he said eventually. Lily laughed softly. Is it that obvious? Yes. She turned toward him. And you? Alexander looked toward the lake. I stopped expecting happiness a long time ago. The honesty caught her off guard. For the first time, she heard something human beneath the cold exterior. That's a terrible reason to get married. To her surprise, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Not quite a smile, but close. Then a servant suddenly rushed into the room. Panic covered his face. Your Grace. Alexander immediately straightened. What is it? A reporter from the capital has arrived. Alexander frowned. And? The servant hesitated. He's claiming to have evidence proving Miss Hawthorne manipulated both the Fairfax family and your Grace. Lily felt the blood drain from her face. The scandal wasn't over. It was only beginning. Minutes later, they entered the main drawing room together. A reporter stood waiting beside the fireplace. The moment he saw Lily, a smug smile appeared. Alexander remained beside her. Show me what you've brought. The reporter handed over a folder. Alexander opened it. His jaw tightened. Lily's stomach twisted. What is it? He handed her the papers. Several witness statements claimed she had openly pursued Nathaniel Fairfax for months. Servants, merchants, minor nobles. Every statement painted her as a manipulative woman determined to marry above her station. Lily stared at them in disbelief. These aren't true. Of course they aren't, Alexander replied calmly. The certainty surprised her. The reporter folded his arms. People will believe them. Alexander slowly closed the folder. How much were you paid? The man's confidence vanished. Excuse me? Nobody gathers this many false statements in 2 days without financial motivation. Silence. The reporter's face reddened. Lily watched carefully. For the first time, she realized something important. Alexander wasn't simply powerful, he was dangerous. The kind of man who saw through lies almost instantly. The reporter left shortly afterward. Once the door closed behind him, Lily sank into a chair. Exhaustion washed over her. This will never end. Alexander stood near the fireplace. Eventually. When? He didn't answer, because they both knew the truth. Scandals rarely died quickly, especially when powerful people wanted them alive. Later that evening, Lily wandered through the West Wing alone. The corridor felt older than the rest of the estate, quieter, almost untouched by time. One door stood slightly open. Curiosity drew her forward. Inside, she discovered a music room covered in dust. Family photographs lined the shelves. In every single one appeared the same young woman, Alexander's sister, Clara. Lily slowly approached one of the pictures. The resemblance struck her immediately. The same grey eyes, the same stubborn expression. Except Clara smiled openly, happily. Footsteps echoed behind her. She turned. Alexander stood in the doorway. You shouldn't be here. Guilt flashed through her. I'm sorry. Several seconds passed. Then, instead of asking her to leave, Alexander entered the room. His gaze settled on one photograph. Her name was Clara. Lily remained silent. Something told her this wasn't easy for him. She was 22. His voice lowered. People destroyed her. Lily's heart sank. A scandal. Alexander nodded. A false one. The room became painfully quiet. The newspapers accused her of having an affair with a married nobleman. Lily immediately understood. It wasn't true. A bitter laugh escaped him, not even remotely. His eyes never left the photograph, but truth stopped mattering the moment the story began. Suddenly everything made sense. The proposal, the protection, the coldness. Alexander wasn't simply saving Lily. He was trying to prevent history from repeating itself. And for the first time since she met him, she saw the lonely man hiding behind the walls. The following morning, the atmosphere inside Ashford Estate felt different, tense. Servants whispered in corners. Newspapers arrived earlier than usual. By breakfast, fresh headlines had already spread throughout the capital. Manipulative Maid targets, powerful Duke. Lily folded the paper immediately. Across the table, Alexander watched her. Don't read them. Hard to avoid when my face is on the front page. Alexander stood. Come with me. Lily frowned. Where? The capital. An hour later, their carriage rolled through crowded city streets. The closer they came to the Royal Press Hall, the more nervous Lily became. Reporters flooded the area. Newsboys shouted headlines. Everyone seemed eager for the next chapter of the scandal. Why are we here? She asked quietly. Alexander adjusted his gloves. Because I'm tired of watching other people tell your story. Lily stared at him. Before she could respond, the carriage stopped. The moment Alexander stepped out, cameras flashed. Reporters surged forward. Questions flew from every direction. Your Grace, is the wedding still happening? Is Miss Hawthorne innocent? What about the witness statements? Alexander ignored all of them. He walked directly into the building. Lily followed close behind. The main press chamber was packed. Journalists filled every seat. Some stood along the walls, others crowded near the stage. The noise became deafening the moment Alexander entered. Then he stepped onto the platform. Silence. The room obeyed instantly. Lily had never seen anything like it. Hundreds of people stopped speaking at once. Alexander's gaze swept across the crowd, calm, controlled, dangerous. "For weeks," he began, "the kingdom has discussed my future wife." A murmur spread immediately. Future wife. Not maid. Not servant. Future wife. Alexander continued, "Many of you have repeated accusations against her without evidence." The room fell quiet again. "That ends today." One reporter stood. "Are you claiming Miss Hawthorne is innocent?" Alexander looked directly at him. "I'm stating a fact." The confidence in his voice sent a wave of whispers through the hall. Another journalist raised a hand. "And the witness statements?" Alexander reached inside his coat and removed a thick folder. The witnesses were paid. Gasps erupted. He handed copies to several reporters. Bank records, signed confessions, financial transfers. The room exploded into chaos. Reporters rushed forward. Questions filled the air. Some immediately began reading the documents. Others compared signatures. Within minutes, the entire narrative started collapsing. One older journalist stood abruptly. "Are you saying this scandal was manufactured?" Alexander's expression hardened. "I am saying that powerful people attempted to destroy an innocent woman to protect a guilty man." More gasps, more questions, more chaos. Lily stood beside him, completely speechless. Nobody had ever defended her like this before. Not publicly. Not at personal risk. Not when it mattered. Alexander raised one hand. Silence returned. Lord Nathaniel Fairfax pursued Miss Hawthorne repeatedly despite her refusals. When his behaviour was discovered, he fabricated evidence and manipulated witnesses. The room became deadly quiet. Miss Hawthorne committed no wrongdoing. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then reporters practically attacked the story. Questions flew in every direction. Pens raced across notebooks. Headlines were already being rewritten. The truth finally had a voice, and that voice belonged to Alexander. When the conference ended, they returned to the carriage. Neither spoke immediately. The noise of the city faded behind them. Finally, Lily turned toward him. "Why?" Alexander frowned slightly. "Why what? Why fight this hard for me?" Silence. Then something remarkable happened. Alexander smiled, a real smile, small, rare, honest. "Because you deserved someone in your corner." The answer hit harder than she expected. Tears stung her eyes instantly. Alexander noticed. "You're crying." "No, I'm not." "You absolutely are." Lily laughed despite herself. "This is your fault." "How?" "You keep saying unexpectedly kind things." To her surprise, Alexander laughed. The sound transformed him completely. For the first time, she understood why Clara had smiled so often in those photographs. There was warmth inside him after all. It had simply been buried beneath years of grief. The weeks that followed changed everything. The false witness scandal collapsed. Nathaniel Fairfax became the subject of every newspaper in the kingdom. More evidence surfaced, more lies unravelled. Victoria Fairfax eventually learned the truth. By the end of the month, she filed for divorce and left the capital entirely. Nathaniel disappeared from public life shortly afterward. Lily's reputation slowly recovered. Invitations returned. Smiles replaced whispers. People who once avoided her suddenly wanted conversations. She found it exhausting. Alexander found it amusing. Life at Ashford Estate changed too. The halls felt warmer. The staff laughed more. The music room reopened. For the first time in years, piano music drifted through the West Wing. Even Mrs. Whitmore seemed happier. One snowy evening, Lily stood beside the frozen lake, watching snowflakes drift across the water. The estate lights glowed warmly behind her. Footsteps approached. She smiled, before turning around. "Alexander, thinking?" he asked softly. "Always." He joined her beside the shoreline. For several moments neither spoke. The silence felt Comfortable now, easy, nothing like the awkward distance that existed when they first met. Finally, Alexander broke it. "You were right." Lily glanced toward him. "About what?" He looked out across the lake. Marriage shouldn't be a business arrangement. Her heart skipped. Alexander rarely spoke openly about feelings, which meant every word mattered. He turned toward her fully. No walls, no distance, no coldness. Somewhere along the way, he stopped briefly, then continued, "You became far more important than the arrangement." Tears immediately filled Lily's eyes. Alexander sighed dramatically. There they are again. "What?" "The tears." Lily laughed through them. "Maybe stop saying things like that." His smile widened. Then he reached inside his coat and produced a small velvet box. Lily froze. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Alexander," he opened the box. A beautiful ring sparkled beneath the falling snow. "The first proposal wasn't fair." His voice softened. "This one is." He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the nervousness hiding behind his confidence. Lily Hawthorne. He took her hand carefully. "If you had the choice, all over again," his voice lowered, "would you still choose me?" Tears slipped down her cheeks, but this time they came from happiness, because somewhere between a ruined reputation and a frozen lake, she had fallen in love with him too. Lily smiled through her tears. "Yes." Relief washed across Alexander's face so quickly it almost made her laugh. He slid the ring onto her finger. Then he pulled her gently into his arms. Snow drifted around them. The frozen lake stretched endlessly behind them. And for the first time since a slap echoed across a crowded ballroom and changed both their lives forever, neither of them felt broken. Because sometimes the people hardest to love are simply the people who were never loved properly themselves. And sometimes love arrives not when life is perfect, but when two wounded hearts finally find someone worth trusting again.
Let's be honest. If you were in Lily's position, would you have accepted Alexander's